I asked my students who are beginners and have been learning for a couple of months how they feel they can write now where they couldn't a few months ago. And the first thing they said was that they feel comfortable in the group, they can bounce ideas off each other, that they can express what they want to say verbally first, so they like to talk out an issue, and before they write about it, they like to talk about it. And if I ask them questions, that helps them to clarify their thoughts, and they feel comfortable and confident expressing their ideas in front of each other. So that helps them when they go to write down what they want to say.
Learners think there's only one way of learning spelling, and if that hasn't been working for them, they blame themselves for that. Whereas when they see there are at least 8 methods that we can use, and that people who are successful at spelling use a combination of all of them. The other thing learners like to see actually is tutors using dictionaries, because they feel they're the only ones that have to use dictionaries. So I often bring in just my own dictionary and just leave it on the table. I may not use it at all in class, but when they see that somebody who has experience, that they're more likely to use a dictionary maybe than learners, that breaks down the barriers as well. But the spelling is a big issue, and anything that they can do, bringing in their own life experiences and how they conquered, or maybe compare it to learning to drive the car or something that they learned recently, and that if they think about it, no one method succeeded in that.
Particularly writing for a more advanced level, you have to correct grammar, you have to correct punctuation, you have to correct spelling, but not the first draft. The important thing is to get the ideas from your head onto the paper. You can always correct it later. You can edit it later. Students often think that the first draft has to be perfect. One of the hardest things is convincing students that most of us go through 9 or 10 drafts before we get it how we want. So I would suggest sometimes to read your piece out loud to see what it sounds like, because if you hear it yourself out loud, you often then think, oh, that sounds weird, that doesn't sound right.
I thought this was a lovely quote. It's Tom McLaughlin, who's a children's author, and he had an article in The Guardian recently about encouraging dyslexic children to write. But I think it's applicable here with anyone. I thought it was such a lovely way of putting it. And he's encouraging people not to get hung up on spelling. And he says, I'm going to say something that's going to shock you now. You might want to sit down. No, go on, really sit down. Spelling isn't important. It really isn't. People get hung up on it. But being able to spell has nothing to do with being a good writer. Being able to know how a car engine works doesn't make you a racing driver. It's about having something to say. It's about feeling the wind in your hair. So I thought that was lovely, because I think for so many students, when they write, they have a great feeling of freedom from getting their own words out and clarifying them and having someone listen to them. And it's a shame to miss that because they're not good enough at spelling yet.